Our in focus tonight is Ukraine conflict, no breakthrough yet. That's our in focus tonight, Ukraine conflict, no breakthrough yet. To talk about that, I'm joined by Ajay Malhotra. He's former Indian ambassador to Russia. And I'm also joined by Professor Swaran Singh. He's a regular on our show, teaches at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Both gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on the show tonight. Professor Swaran Singh, the question that everybody asks today is that with so much rhetoric, so much, heightened rhetoric, is war imminent? What is your sense? Will they go to war, or will they, keep talking and wait for the other side to blink first?
See, unless one wants to keep in mind that there could always be inadvertent mistakes that could happen on either side, I, for one, would not expect any conventional war taking place, because that's absolutely not in favor of Russia, and even in Ukraine. In that sense, you're already in detail showing in your program how various countries are asking their nationals to exit from Ukraine, skeleton staff in their missions, which automatically creates an impression that FDI, foreign direct investment, is going to dry up there. People are going to pull out their money from Ukraine. Even if tensions continue. And of course, Russia would not like to see giving a pretext to NATO to, unite behind President Joe Biden in case an invasion takes place. You gave an excellent detail on Crimea and what happened since Crimea. And I think that should be our good clue to what kind of solution are we looking at. I mean, unless you think the way things are, we could learn to live with those things. That could be one solution. Otherwise, a great example of as soon as Putin came to power in year 2001 is war with Georgia. The two similarly declared independent republics of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. That's a great example of how Putin operates. And even today, Georgia calls those territories as occupied territories by Russia. So Russian forces are still present there in terms of peace operations, etc. So, this is not going to either lead to a clear peace outcome where everybody goes home and says, now we are not worried about each other, and nor it is going to be a situation where you would see an open invasion. So it's going to be some kind of lingering on tensions, and tensions are already showing impact on Ukraine. Ukraine is talking about Putin, doing some kind of hybrid campaign, fake bomb threats, economic disruption, cyber attacks. So it is already in that sense impacting Ukraine, and Ukraine would be possibly the first country to cave in.
Okay.
So in that sense, I think we have to be very careful what kind of solution are we looking at, and whether those solutions are likely to come on ground. And last point, I think this is also increasingly becoming a kind of saber-rattling ego in United States President and President Putin in that sense. And as we have always known in history, when elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. So Ukraine is becoming increasingly aware of its own vulnerabilities, and it might ultimately feel pushed as to seek its own solution with Moscow.
Okay. Professor Swaran Singh, my last question is to you. Sir, how do you see this crisis resolving itself? How do you see this, getting settled?
I think the pragmatic and likely solution is that, President Zelensky will have to go back to Minsk Accords and protocol and begin to talk to those rebel leaders in Donetsk and Luhansk area, because his position domestically is coming under enormous clout. And you must remember, Kyiv is raising private civilian armies, which is now creating militias on the eastern region. His economy is likely to suffer. This Black Sea military exercises are, sort of being seen by Ukrainian officials as a blockade now, because their imports, exports are affected. Currency is likely to be impacted by that. So his own position, I think, is vulnerable in that sense domestically. And you have heard both US and UK have said their intelligence reports are saying that, Russia is already planning to put up another puppet government. This is what they will do to Kyiv. They don't have to walk into Kyiv. They might do something of this sort, where they could demoralize, demolish President Zelensky. Media will be used. And recently, Zelensky, you remember, had closed all Russian websites, all social media. They had closed all Russian television. In 2014, 3 years back, they closed down their own 4 TV stations because they thought they were being funded by Russia. So, there are multiple ways of making the current regime in Kiev cave down. And before that happens, I think the resumption of dialogue between Kiev and the rebels on the eastern sector is one possibility. But Putin is using this opportunity to bring it out to the rest of the world that his security concerns are genuine. He wants written assurance from NATO. He wants written assurances from United States. So in that sense, he's pushing that. And he's earned enormous impunity. He's done several things in the last 20 years. Domestic level opposition, dealing with the United States, dealing with his immediate neighbors, bringing together all the CS2 countries behind him. So he's earned certain impunity to some of these tensions. And therefore, he's seeking a solution, not just between rebels in eastern sector of Ukraine and Kiev. He's willing to find out something for himself during this crisis.
Okay. We'll have to see, what finally comes out of it, who gets what concessions. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Both gentlemen, Ajay Malhotra and Professor Swaran Singh, thank you very much for joining me on the show and lending us your insights. Thank you.